asked me she asked me to record today's lecture. Hi, Leslie. Good to see you. Okay. And so I'm gonna go to the class website real quick. And I'm gonna see if I have that entry for that chapter 3 lecture notes already up. If I don't, then I'm gonna make a note to myself that
You have it up, but we just can't submit.
okay,
Yeah.
all right. Let's see what I need to do on that then. Let's see a pen for myself. Okay. No. Oh wait, okay, so I got this. Right, the chapter 3, the lecture submission. And no, so it might be is I didn't have it at some point, but then I have created it. So I'm gonna do a quick deal where I'm just gonna see who I've got down from. So yes, Ashley, I'm gonna ask you to go ahead and submit to that.
Okay.
Okay. And Leslie, Leslie, I need you to do it too. And same for you, Beth.
Yes, I can do it.
And Gary, if you ever hear this, I need yours too. And it may be that I might have yours. Well, I don't have that, right? So you asked if you got yours. Okay. Okay, so we're good on that. Okay. So I guess I just want to ask, before we actually get into today's lecture, do either of you have any questions about anything else with regards to class?
The last one or the?
Anything, like anything with assignments.
The assignments, the chapter 7 is something that I already knew because of child development, so it was really cool to like read it again.
Okay, glad to hear that.
Chapter 8, it was like a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay.
About the romance and the animus?
Huh?
About the romance and the animus?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What, do you recall, like, what was confusing?
I guess it was the divorce thing.
Okay.
Yeah, but since I don't know, I wasn't thinking about like my own personal experience. So I was like kind of there.
Okay.
And I was like, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, you understood it?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Oh, predictors of divorce. Ugh. Tough topic. Okay. But I'm gonna go ahead and kill that then, if you guys are okay. And I'm just gonna get into today's lecture. I'm just gonna lecture at you, and I'm gonna try and lecture until we're finished, and then when we're finished, we're gonna call it a day. I can make no promises on how long this lecture is gonna last. But I have been here since 8 this morning, and I am itching to hit the road, so that's gonna be in my mind. I guess one thing I should point out is I think in the last set of lecture notes, I referred to those lecture notes as the chapter 7 notes. And I'm using a totally different book than what you guys are using for the lectures. In this book that I'm using, I have to continue lecturing out of chapter 7. Right, so at the top of your notes, I'm just gonna ask you to say that this is the chapter 7 continued. Yes. Okay. Let's also remember that the topic of chapter 7 was social thinking and social influence. And so this is going to be the topic that we're going to continue to talk about today. We're just going to add some extra bits of information on this topic. Okay, so I'm going to remind myself where I am here. And so let's say that the place that we're going to pick up from here today is on the topic of persuasion. Okay, so that's our jumping off point. I think that before we actually talk about persuasion, though, kind of want to just see if we can remind ourselves what have we talked about so far in this chapter on social thinking and social influence. Right, so I don't think you guys have your notes with you. So I'm just going to kind of remind you. One thing we talked about is forming impressions of others, we talked about forming impressions of others, we talked about appearance, right? How do we present ourselves to others with regard to our appearance? We talked about how we categorize ourselves with regard to in groups and out groups. We also spent a good amount of time talking about stereotypes. We went over the difference between prejudice and discrimination.
Mhm.
I kind of have a question for you guys. I'm wondering, I did make a distinction where I said prejudice is one thing and discrimination is another thing. I think I pointed out that out in the world, most people use the terms prejudice and discrimination synonymously, like they use them as the same word.
Mhm.
Do you recall what I said the difference was between prejudice and discrimination?
Isn't discrimination the act?
Yes,
Yeah, and prejudice is just like the thought.
yes, or the act.
Yeah.
Yes, right, so we can say in this discussion, you start off with the prejudice, you start off with the attitude. Right, so maybe if your attitude is based on some stereotype that you have of some group. And your discrimination that you're gonna engage in is based on your prejudice that you have towards that group,
Mhm.
okay? From there, we talked about old-fashioned discrimination versus modern discrimination. We said that old-fashioned was like that blatant, obvious type of discrimination. The old-fashioned is more where it's hidden, it's implicit. And then I think we ended last week by talking about this experiment by this researcher named Moses Sharif.
Yes.
And he was like the guy who did that study on the group conflict where he had the voice cam where they had to compete against each other and they like they saw each other as enemies. But remember, we said that after he saw that the two groups would see each other as enemies, he then wanted to see if he could do something where the two groups felt like they had to come together,
Mhm.
right? Where they actually formed one group.
Yeah.
And we said, but the way that he did that was he had them work on a common goal, right?
Isn't that
Where
the
they had to
water-
solve some kind of problem.
The
was-
water tank thing?
Yes, the water tank, right, the water truck,
Yeah.
right, so that they had to pull it out of the mud. Okay, and remember, he referred to that as this superordinate goal, right? Superordinate in that it's more important than either of us. It's something that matters to both of us. Okay. So then today we're picking up with this talk on persuasion. And let's just make sure that we understand. When we're talking about persuasion, we're talking about some attempt to change attitudes. Right, so you're trying to persuade someone, you're trying to change their mind, is how we say it. But when you're trying to change their mind, you're trying to change the way they feel about something, you're trying to change their opinion on some topic. Generally, their attitude towards something. When we do this, we need to think about the different parts of the persuasive act. For instance, we could say if there are different parts. The different parts can be identified as the source. Right, the source is the persuader. Right, it's someone who has this message that they're trying to communicate with, they're trying to change someone's mind. So I just use this word message, we say that's another part that's involved here. Right, the message is the actual topic that the person's trying to get their mind changed on. When we do this, we try to have the message be communicated via some type of channel. Right, the channel is the mechanism through which we're going to communicate to someone else. In this case, we're thinking of it basically as like one of the 5 senses. Right, so am I trying to change someone's mind by communicating to them where they're seeing my message, they're hearing my message, or am I trying to communicate the message in some other way? So then we can say the last part is the receiver. And we can think of this as the persuade E, right? The person whose mind you're trying to change. There's been a lot of research done on this topic. Reason why is that there are a lot of entities in the world that are interested in changing minds and changing attitudes. And so a lot of researchers want to figure out what's the best way that we can do it, what's the most efficient way that we can do it, what's the most effective that we can do it. As a result of all this research, one group of researchers have come up with a theory of how to be persuasive. And that theory is referred to as the elaboration likelihood model. And this is where we're talking about how to be persuasive. At this moment, I kind of have to pause for a moment. I just want to note that this specific theory gets talked about a lot in specific psychology classes. One class where it's focused on is social psychology.
Yeah.
And something that you guys have both come across this already?
Yeah.
Am I hearing that?
I've heard
Okay,
that
you've
as
heard
a reminder though.
Okay,
They talk about that a lot, like, I think in my social, psychology, that word was over and over and over again.
okay, good. Well, bad, because now I gotta get it right. Okay, and so let's see if I get this right. What's happening here is that there's this focus on how the message is conveyed. Right, so we'll say this is the focus. And this is interesting to me, right? Now we're talking about how to communicate the message, how to be persuasive in how you communicate the message. When to me, what the focus ought to be, we'll say Dr. Cersei's focus, which is what I think should be, is the message itself. Right? So is the message itself a good idea or a bad idea? But with this model, it doesn't really care. It doesn't really matter. Whether you have a good idea, a bad idea, so good intent, a bad intent. Instead, what matters in terms of trying to be persuasive is how you're going to communicate the message. Okay. So I kind of see this as potentially a tool that could be used for evil, right? Maybe we could have like another Adolf Hitler come along and say, my message is that I want to kill a bunch of people because I think they're bad.
Sounds like DeSantis right now.
Okay, right? And so with that, right, the public ought to consider that message itself and recognize that that message is a bad message. But what someone like DeSantis or Hitler will do is they'll say, oh, that's my message and I'm sticking with my message. So I'm going to focus on how I'm going to communicate my message to be convincing.
Right.
Okay. And so with that, there are these, what they refer to as two roots that have been identified. Let me just put it this way. Make sure I got room on the screen there. Yep, okay. So there's two roots that have been identified as far as how you can communicate the message. I'll say we've got one root here, and we've got another root here. At this point, I'm hearing that you guys are somewhat familiar with this theory. I wonder if anyone remembers what the names of the two roots are.
I don't.
Okay. And actually, no, okay, good. I hate talking to people when they know stuff. Okay, so one root is referred to as the central root. And the other root is the peripheral.
Oh, that sounds familiar now.
Okay. And, what they're talking about with this, we could say is, first, how would we describe the, here, how would we describe the receiver in all of this? Right, remember the receiver is the person whose mind we're trying to change in the first place. You're gonna wanna tailor your message to the type of receiver that you are dealing with. Where one receiver could be someone who is interested in the topic. Okay. That would be different from the other type of receiver, in that the other kind of receiver is not interested in the topic. Right, so maybe one receiver is interested because they feel they've got some kind of investment in the topic. It matters to them because their decision is going to dictate something that's important. Okay, so let's just note that for the person that's interested, we refer to that receiver as being communicated to via a central route. For the person that's not interested, we're going to communicate to them via a peripheral route. With that, I'm kind of wondering if either of you have a sense of why are they using these two words to describe these two types of receivers, the central route and the peripheral.
With the peripheral, I think of peripheral vision, and it's kind of like something that you kind of see, but you're not really focusing on it.
Yes.
And so therefore, they're giving you information without you even realizing that you're taking in the information.
Sure, but even in what you said, you've already answered the question.
Right,
But you've described the type of receiver that we're talking about,
right,
right? So they're not interested, they're not focused on it. It's some issue that's happening on their peripheral.
right.
Okay,
But they're still getting the message.
yeah, they're still getting the message, right? So even, so it's possible for me to have peripheral vision. If I do have peripheral vision, I'm seeing something off to the side, and maybe, as I'm seeing that thing off to the side, I don't have a very good look at it because it's off to the side. I don't know much about it.
Mhm.
Okay. And so, talking about vision, if I'm seeing something that's central, right, that's something that's directly in front of me, it's centrally in front of me, I am more able to see that thing.
Is it like, for example, the difference basically, the central is like your focus is on that subject, and then with the other one, you're like really not focused.
Yes, I like that, I like that. So yes, focused here. And not focused here. That's good. Okay. So we want to think about how that receiver then is going to tend to process the information. Right, so I'm going to say continue here, I'm going to put processing with this person, and I will say processing with this person. Let's note that they're going to process the information in two different ways. That central root person who's interested and focused on the topic, they're going to process the information in a way that you could describe as being careful processing. Right? They're going to go over the information, they're going to think about it, they're going to consider it carefully. Whereas the peripheral root person that's not interested in the topic is going to be not careful about their process. Okay. So we'll say that that's a first difference that we can point out between the two roots. And this difference is in how we would describe the two types of receivers. Okay. From there, we want to talk about then, if we understand this about the receiver, that then is going to dictate how the persuader should craft the message. Okay. So that's this next thing to consider on this. we'll note that the two different routes are gonna wanna have the message communicated differently. The person that's gonna require the central root processing, right, the careful processor, is gonna probably get more receptive to a message that is communicated in terms of logic or reason. Right, in this sense, the central root processor is gonna respond to a logical, a reasonable argument. Where you are going to, the persuader is going to present the merits of the argument. Okay, the pros and cons, some kind of rational discussion of what's gonna happen. For this careful consideration, for this careful processing. The peripheral root person, though, isn't paying very much attention, they're not focused, they're not gonna consider the information very carefully. So instead, the message is gonna be dictated by appearance. And the reason why you're gonna try and use appearance, right, you're gonna flash up the appearance. We'll say, maybe you're gonna present some kind of, let's say, flashy appearance. And the reason why you're gonna have to do this is because the person isn't paying attention, therefore, you're gonna have to do something to catch the persuadee's attention. And the way you're gonna do that is by displaying some kind of flashy something. Different ways that you can present flash. One way is that you might use a persuader that is attractive. Okay, so the persuadee, they're not really paying that much attention, they're not invested in the topic, but if you present an attractive presenter, they're gonna pay attention to the attractive presenter because they like looking attractive. Okay? And I'm thinking that when I say this, I'm thinking about trying to persuade men, right? Men are susceptible to visual stimuli, right? And so, bless you. If you present a attractive presenter to the man, you're gonna catch the man's attention.
Makes sense.
I kind of think of the example that is in my mind with that is, it seems to be that, if you ever watch Fox News uses this technique.
Yes.
And the way that they use it is, so they'll have like the anchor or the pundit on the screen. And they'll often use an attractive female presenter. And that female presenter will be dressed in a skin tight dress. She may have the hem on to like here.
Yeah.
And she'll be sitting on the couch with her legs crossed. And you'll actually see it where, as they're sitting on it, they actually do it, right? They have like the couch, like the U facing the camera. And the U is perfectly set up so that the lady has it like this, where the legs crossed, and if she's sitting with her legs crossed, the dress is like right here.
Yeah.
So you get a nice bit of went through the leg right there. Anyway, right, so that's this. Now I guess, I wanna ask, got a couple ladies in the class, would you be as receptive if you had an attractive male presenter, presenting the information?
Yeah.
Okay, so it works both ways.
Yeah.
Okay, I was also kind of thinking though that, it's men who are visually stimulated, so I'm wondering if there's another kind of attractive stimulus they can present. So I don't know what to put in some guy that's caring, I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. Okay, so we'll just stay with the attractive, okay. But in addition to that, there are other ways to have a flashy appearance. Maybe what you can do is to make your argument, you can present some type of celebrity who's there to make some type of endorsement. Right, in this case, what's gonna happen is the celebrity is gonna come on and they're gonna say, oh yeah, I like this product. They're not gonna need to say anything about why they like the product. They're not gonna need to provide any kind of logical reason why the product is better. All they're gonna have to say is, I like the product. Right, and as soon as they say that, if you like that celebrity, then you're gonna like the product too.
Yep.
You're gonna take that celebrity's word. And just trust the celebrity is correct.
Right.
Okay. So that's kind of interesting, and that's where we're talking about this peripheral root. We're not talking about presenting any merits of a logical argument. We're just trying to catch people's attention with this. Okay, so then the last thing to consider with this is the effect that this will end up having. Let's put it out of the way over here. So with the effect, the thing that we're talking about is, if the persuader does make their point. Right, so they've been trying to convince the persuadee, you should change your mind in this way, you should change your attitude in this way. So let's say the argument was effective. And the persuader did change the persuadee's mind. And then we want to talk about what this is, how much has the mind been changed? We could say that for the central root arguer, because they were using this technique where they were presenting the logic of the argument, the effect is that the attitude change is going to be more permanent. Right, so you've convinced the person to change their mind through reason. And that reason is gonna lead to a confidence in the changed mind. Like, yes, I've reasoned it out, so I'm gonna stay with this new position that I've adopted. In that way, we can describe this attitude change as more durable. Right, I like the word durable in this case. Because what's gonna happen is, the person has changed their attitude. They're gonna become other people who are gonna continue to argue against that new attitude. And if this person changed their mind because of the reason, the attitude change is even more durable, and then it's gonna resist all those new arguments, right? Okay. Let's describe the effect with the peripheral root. The peripheral root would be where if there is an attitude change, this change is going to be one that is, we should say, more temporary. It's going to be less durable. I'm just thinking why. Okay, so what I'm thinking here, what I'm kind of laughing at in my mind is, so if I was a peripheral root thinker, say I was watching the hot anchor on Fox News, and then I changed my mind because the hot anchor on Fox News that I changed my mind. That my change could be temporary in that I can flip the channel to MSNBC, CNN, and listen to the hot anchor over there.
Yeah.
Right, and now, oh, well, now what's this new hot anchor thinking? What's this new hot anchor telling me to think? Oh, do what they tell me to do, right? Now, and the only reason why I'm changing my mind is because I'm listening to a new attractive person.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's how my changing mind is less true. Kind of interesting. As I'm thinking this, right, I'm saying all this, I'm wondering, if this happens with students in college, right? So are you as students more likely to pay attention to attractive professor and less likely to pay attention to an unattractive professor?
Well, it depends.
I mean,
Yeah.
Okay.
like, for me, like, I like what you do in class, that you put like. Example, like real life example, that makes me pay more attention.
Okay.
But if let's say a guy or girl that like they're attractive and they're talking about something boring, I'm gonna be like, okay.
Right.
Okay.
I feel like they need to have the energy
Yeah.
to be able to grasp us. It's like, I feel like the attraction is just like the first layer of the cake. I feel like that's the thing that's supposed to like throw the hook out there, but then are you actually catching them? Like, do you have good bait on there? Like, are you actually pulling it in? And so what I think ends up actually happening with a lot, especially with like the new stuff, they'll use the peripheral, they'll use the hot anchors to get you going. And they kind of get to thinking like, they'll kind of give you like a little drop in the water or something. And then you're more likely to move towards the central,
Okay.
like later on.
Okay.
And then they can persuade
So you need a little bit more.
Yeah.
than Just, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting, okay. Okay, so I don't need to dress up anymore. Good. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say on this topic. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to my next topic from here. Let's see, we're still talking about social thinking and social influence. We're no longer talking about persuasion. And we're gonna move on to other ways that our behavior is affected in social dynamics. Let's just note that for the rest of this chapter, I'm going to talk about 3 different ways that we change our behavior in social environments. Okay, I'm going to go over these one at a time. Let's note that at this point, we're now talking about the power of social pressure. So, I guess I should begin by describing, well, what is social pressure? Right, social pressure is when you are in some kind of environment where there's more than one person and you feel the need to do something, maybe to change something you're doing.
like an obligation.
Like an obligation, yes. And the only reason why that obligation is there, because you feel that there are other people that are imposing that obligation on.
Like they have those expectations on.
Yes, like expectations, yes. And those expectations don't need to be communicated, right? You can assume that there are expectations happening here. Okay, and so it's really just how am I perceiving stuff? Am I feeling pressure? Okay, so one way that we might feel pressure to change something we're doing is through conformity. Okay, I just want to make sure that we understand what conformity is. So I'm going to give us a quick definition here. Let's say conformity is where we change either our behavior or our attitudes to match expectations of others. Okay. So you're changing something about the way that you're behaving or the way that you see things. The only reason why you're doing it is because you think others expect you to do it. I'll give you a quick example of how I did this when I was in high school. Might be a bit of a history lesson for you guys. You may want to go and ask it. So I'm 50, right? And I went to high school in the 1980s. So if you have anyone else in your life that also went to high school in the 1980s, you may want to ask this person if they conform in the same way that Dr. Sears conformed. Okay. So when I was a high school student, by the way, I went to high school here in California, up in Lodi, California. You guys know where Lodi is? It's a small town.
I haven't heard of it.
Really? It's Pittsburgh, Stockholm.
Yeah, I've heard it. Yeah, I've
Okay.
heard that.
So I grew up in Stockton, but I had to go to school in town, like 8 miles north of Stockton, Lodi.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like it was Bakersfield's Delaney,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Makes
Okay.
sense.
But in that high school, there started to be this trend, a fashion trend that everyone had to do if you were gonna be cool. That trend was that you had to do this with your pants. You got up in the morning, you got dressed, and you got ready for school. You had to take your pants, and you had to cut them.
I do that.
What's that?
I do that
You do that now,
all the time.
all the time?
Wait, like you did a different thing where like height,
Oh, yeah.
like he.
Right, you had to do it with both legs. And you had to walk around the whole day like this.
Right.
And if you didn't, other students would look at you and ask, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you conforming like everybody else?
Right.
Ugh, ew. I think I have pictures from like, my freshman year, where I was walking around like this. And now I look down and I stop for doing it. So that's conforming.
Yeah.
Well, let's note that, when one conforms, there actually are like two reasons why we conform. And let's talk about that as in being in terms of, influence. Two types of influence lead to conformity. One type of influence is referred to as informational influence. And the other type of influence is referred to as normative influence. So the difference between the two is that, if I conform and my conformity is influenced by informational influence, the reason why I'm conforming is because in that moment when I conform, I have a goal. And my goal is that I want to be correct in that moment. Right, when I'm using the word correct, what I mean is that I find myself in a moment where I need to utter a behavior, but I'm not sure how to engage in that behavior. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look around me at that moment, and I'm gonna look to see how are other people behaving in this situation.
Is it like when you go to clubs?
Yes, so I'm gonna maybe get in that moment, but so yes, so the idea is, you're not sure what to do in that moment, and so you're looking at everyone else. And you're saying, oh, okay, they know what to do, and you're making that assumption, so you're gonna do what they're doing because you assume that's the correct thing to do in that moment. Okay, now I'm gonna ask you to elaborate on that in just a moment, but before we get there, I'm also gonna define this as normative. Normative is where I'm gonna conform, but I'm gonna do it for a different reason. Here, the reason why I'm conforming, the reason why I'm changing my behavior is that this time I want to be accepted. Right, so I don't want to be outcasted, I don't want to be made fun of, I don't want to be ostracized from the group. Okay, so pretty important distinctions. Okay, but actually, I'm gonna ask you, when you're talking about conforming in the club, and if it's information, can you think of an example of how are you changing behavior at the club? I don't get to the club very often. Are you talking about like a dance, where you go dancing?
Yeah, I usually, when I go to Mexico, like, I always go to clubs.
Okay,
And I don't do that, but when I took my boyfriend, he was like observing everyone, and then he started like doing what everyone did. So like when you're sitting down and you're like,
Okay.
the music,
Uh-huh.
he started doing that, and I was like, you can just do whatever. Like if you don't want to dance, then don't dance. But like I do dance a lot, so I started dancing, and then he jumped like to
Okay.
dance with us, and I was like, okay, like that's cool.
Okay, and so what I'm hearing is that he did it because in that moment, that's when he saw it being the correct thing, to do, like what
Yeah.
you're supposed to do in that moment.
Yeah, because it was his first time going to the club.
Okay, so you didn't really know what to do. Okay, and so I would agree that that's correct, yes. But I wanna offer another example of this, actually, oh shoot, we did this, in our class, last semester.
What was it again?
Okay, so, I had you guys to go down to the quad,
What?
go down to the quad,
Oh, yeah.
and, you remember that thing where, so I had students like stand in the quad. And it's like a group of you standing out there, and you all were looking off in some direction. Right?
That was hilarious.
And so the idea here is, there's someone now that's gonna be walking by. And he sees all of you looking off in the direction, okay?
Mhm.
And so in that moment, what this person's gonna do, he's seeing this, so he's going to do it too.
Mhm.
In that moment, this person has just conformed, right?
Mhm.
He just changed his behavior to match his expectation of it. Now, what will be the expectation here? These people were all looking off in this direction. So this person assumed that there's a natural expectation of them that everyone else ought to look off in the other direction too, because there's an issue.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? And so, so you actually know that, Beth had a research methods class with me last semester.
Mhm.
And I wanted to demonstrate, experiments with my class, right, with research methods. And so the experiment that we did was this class experiment on conformity due to informational, influence.
Mhm.
Right, so, the students went out there, they looked off in the distance, and we actually had a fourth student in the group. It was like, I'm gonna say hiding in the bushes, but not really.
Right.
But this fourth student was observing, right? They had like a little tablet or like a little, note-taking device here, and this person was observing the passers-by. This person was counting, the people that passed by, who would just keep on walking, who would actually look up.
Right, it was difficult because like there weren't that many people out of the quad.
Mhm.
We did get a couple people like look, and so that was hilarious. He made one guy mad because he realized that he fell for it. He's like, you guys aren't even looking at anything.
So that's being nosy.
No,
It
because,
could be a safety thing, like what if there's like a fire going on up there, we're all like looking like, oh my god, what's going on? And
Mhm.
like, what if you wanna make sure that you're correct so that you can take the right actions and stuff?
and it is this moment where like you're just, this person is just naturally curious. Right? What's going on? What's happening, right? And so you're naturally gonna turn around because you think it's the correct thing to do at that moment. These people are being correct in that there's actually something interesting to look at.
You don't care about being accepted though.
What's that?
They don't care about being like accepted into your group.
Right, so it's not about being accepted.
Yeah,
It's just doing the correct thing and that, oh, there's something interesting I could learn about.
makes sense.
By the way, I talked to my incarcerated students about this, and I really wanna do it with them. Where, I can get my incarcerated students to stand in a group like this, looking off in some direction. And they get some other incarcerated person to look off too. But I'm really afraid to do it because I'm afraid this person would have huge reaction, get pissed off at these people and. I don't know where that's gonna go. Right. The other thing I want them to do too, though, is, maybe inmates here, officer here. I'd love to, but then it's gonna be the same thing, officer's gonna get pissed off
Like, what are you doing that?
and retaliate, yes.
Right,
Are they in prison?
What's that?
Are they in prison?
Mhm. Yep.
Like really in prison?
so much to
Yeah, so
probably.
I go to the prison where they are, walk into the prison, they have classrooms in there, when they come out of their housing units and they sit with me and they get class together.
Right. I see that there's probably very few female employees there, like.
Yeah, it is more men, but
Yeah.
there is still a sizable chunk of women. And it is fun to look at the women, like they tend to be strong and manly and.
Right.
Like,
You gotta have to be though.
But yeah, and one thing that's also interesting is, where I walk in, so, the way it works is. They all live like in these buildings that are connected to each other, and then, the classroom is over here. They have to walk out of the buildings, and there's this thing called the yard. Right, the yard is like that empty space, like there's a track here where they can go out and they can run, they can walk the track. There's some pull-up bars, we can get all muscular and all that kind of stuff. And then there's a gate that they have to walk through here, where they have to pass through the gate, and then there's a metal detector here, ensure that they're not bringing any knives or anything into the classrooms. But there are a lot of officers that hang out right here too, and so this is where I want to experiment. But I'm afraid to, it's going to get attacked over what I did. So,
I feel like that's something you have to get like extra permission for.
yeah. And I already bend the rules as it is, so. Anyway, okay, so. In addition to us conforming due to informational influence, we also conform due to normative influence, right? Here we're saying, oh, this is the time where I want to be accepted. Let's say that for me, when I was cutting my pants, I was doing it because I wanted to be accepted by the rest of the group. Okay. I'll give you one other example of this that's happened to me in my life. Many years ago, I went to see Jerry Seinfeld do a stand-up set. Okay. And as I was in the audience, I was in graduate school, and I went with my graduate school buddies. Right, we're all sitting in the audience together. Jerry made a joke that I didn't get. It went over my head, right? And I didn't understand it. So my initial reaction was to not laugh. But in that moment, when I started to not laugh, I noticed that my friends around me did get a joke, and they laughed. So what did I do? I laughed too.
Yeah.
But why did I laugh? Not because I wanted to be correct. I laughed because I didn't want my graduate school buddies to see that I didn't get the joke.
Yeah.
Because I was afraid that they wouldn't accept it if I didn't get the joke.
I do that a lot.
Do you?
Yeah, I have a hard time hearing people, especially in like noisy settings. It's like, a weird auditory thing, but I can hear the volume. But sometimes I miss the words that you say, and if everyone else is laughing, I'll also just like laugh along with them, and I just keep getting through, so I'm not like making myself look like a stick in the mud.
All right. Sounds like you're trying to be accepted.
I used to with my boyfriend's mom.
With your boyfriend's mom?
Not anymore because we got into a fight, but
What's an example of that? With your boyfriend?
last time it was, when was it?
We're gonna pray.
No, it was Tuesday, and I was like, helping my boyfriend, like, making food and this and that. And then she came, she was talking about insurance and government and houses, and I was like, oh, yeah, like, yeah, for sure, yeah, the government, like, oh my god.
So you were agreeing with her?
Yeah, and I was like, oh, yeah, and then she was like, yeah, like, oh my god, like, this government and the houses, like, she was just talking a lot, and I was like, shut up, just like.
Ay. And you did not say that?
No, but I left because like she made a comment really like.
Wait, are you saying that, so you got in a fight with her? And this is the moment where the fight happens?
It was not a fight, but
Disagreement?
it was a really big disagreement. She like crossed the line and I was like that.
Okay, so now I'm being nosy. Can you please? Give me
Yeah,
a quick.
my auntie, she's
Your tia?
yeah, my tia, she's going through like a divorce. And I told her because, oh my god. So this lady, she was, my boyfriend's mom, she was talking to me about this insurance that she sells and this and that, and she was asking me for my family members and friends to like she was like, oh, give me their numbers and this and that, and I don't talk to my uncle, I only talk to my tia. And then I told her that, and then she was like, oh, does she has a house? And then she started asking me this like personal questions, and I was like, okay, whatever.
That's the boyfriend mom?
Yeah,
Okay.
and then so at some point I was just like, I don't think she's gonna like have head to that because she's getting divorced. And then she was like, oh, like why? And then I stayed quiet and I made like this serious face, and I was like, because this guy molested my cousin. And then she was like,
The supposed
yeah. And then she was like, oh, like that's really bad. And then I was like, oh, like she's having empathy, like this and that. But then she was like, is that your cousin's like the father. And I was like, no, that's the stepdad. And then she said, well, that's the gift that she gets for marrying another man. And I was like, you
Wow.
are a big
My God.
B. And I left.
Yeah, I would love to.
I was like, where's God? Where's God? Like, come on, lady.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh, there's
like,
God.
it's really cross.
Well, honestly, I think that, she's with God on that, and that God doesn't want people to get divorced.
I
So-
know, like.
So does it make you closer to God or further from God?
It doesn't affect the tiny relationship that I have with God, because it's not like big, it's really tiny,
Okay.
but it makes me realize how hypocrite religion people
Okay.
are, like, big.
How judgmental she can be.
Yeah, she's really like,
Mm.
and then cause I told my boyfriend, I was like, that's it, like, you treat me like a fucking dog, dude, like, something that I have no feelings. Then I guess he talked to her and she was like, that's not what I meant to say. I was like,
What you say?
what exactly were you trying to say with that? Like, that's hurtful,
How old is the boyfriend's mom?
like 40 something.
40 something?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I don't know, she's crazy like that.
Okay. Excellent example. But I'm gonna go ahead and move on now to another way that we change our behavior. The other way that we change our behavior is through a thing called compliance. And this is in psychology, when we talk about compliance, we refer to compliance as this, as agreeing to a request. I kind of want to make sure that we understand exactly what we mean by this. So someone has asked you for a favor. And in that moment, when you've been asked for that favor, you can say no. Right? And if you say no, you can do it with, we'll say, with no punishment. Right? It was your choice. You could have said yes, or you could have said no. Right? And there's gonna be no punishment for you for saying in either answer. But let's also note that if someone is asking you to do something, they are hoping that you will say yes to this.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, this is a huge topic in certain realms, particularly like in the realm of business, right? Because in capitalism, right, where businesses flourish, businesses are asking you a request.
Mhm.
And that request is for you to buy their product,
Mhm.
right? You can say, no, I don't want to buy your product, and there's gonna be no punishment for it. But that company really wants you to say yes, right? So as a result of this, there's been a lot of research that's gone into how can I get someone to say yes, right? It's really for the benefit of the business where they can now make more money using this technique. Okay? So a result of all this research is that there have been different techniques that have been established that we can use to get a yes to a request. And I want to describe 3 of these techniques to you guys.
Is one of them put in the door?
Yes. Okay.
I think I know the, yeah.
What's that?
I was like, okay, I think I know at least one of the other ones.
Okay. And this is from your social studies class?
Yeah.
Uh,
And I also took argument and debate. Argument and debate, it's a communications class.
did you get that? This year?
I got a little bit of this, especially because persuasion is a really big part of argument and debate,
Okay.
so. We went
Okay.
over a little bit.
So let's see if I get foot in the door. Okay, so yeah, the first technique is foot in the door. And I guess I should note that it's kind of like a scenario that I'm envisioning in all this.
Mhm.
Right, that scenario is going back like the door-to-door salesman.
I
And
was thinking like Jehovah's Witness.
okay, sure,
Yeah.
sure, give me that. With the Jehovah's Witness, Oh, I guess, I'm gonna put out what this is first.
Mhm.
With a foot in the door, you're using this technique to get compliance. And the way that you use the technique is you start off, with a small request. Okay. And, it's gonna be some request that's so small that the asker is certain to get a yes as an answer, right? So let's say I make a small request, and then the answer to my small request is a yes. Okay. What that will lead to is then me feeling like I now have license to make a big request. Where that big request will also get a yes. But it's almost like, you have to, fool the person into this. And the way that you're fooling the person into this is, the whole goal all along with all of this is to get the yes to the big request, right? So the ultimate goal with this technique is to get this yes to the big request. Okay, but how are you gonna get there? You're gonna get there by first putting out the small request that gets the yes. Okay, so at this point, I think I can go ahead and use like the Jehovah's Witness as an example here,
Mhm.
right? So the Jehovah's Witness, they are, do they still go door to door?
They send letters more now,
Okay,
yeah.
well, I'm gonna go back to the door here, right? So someone knocks on your door. Hi, can I talk to you about, whatever they want to, all right, how they say it, the power of God, all that kind of stuff. Okay, and like with someone like me, I was gonna let you guys know, with regard to religion.
Mhm.
You guys have heard the term atheist,
Yes.
right? Are either of you able to tell me what is an atheist?
A person who does not believe in a god or a higher being.
Okay,
My
right?
sister is that,
What's that?
my sister is that,
She's that?
yeah.
Okay.
Technically am.
What's that?
I technically am.
You technically are?
Yeah, I teeter totter with agnostic and atheism.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so like a little bit, I'm not sure what's going on.
It's like
and then-
I got spirituality, but I don't have religion.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you reserving space for there potentially being a supreme power?
No,
No, okay,
no, more for myself than anything.
okay,
Like
okay.
it's more of a selfish thing than
Oh,
religious, hoping that there's a God that I'm worshiping.
okay, no, this is totally
Yeah.
on top of this.
Oh, yeah,
but-
totally
but
off topic.
Since you mentioned Jehovah's Witness, I feel like I need to, let you know where I stand with all this kind of stuff.
Don't worry.
So, you could refer to me as an atheist, and that would be correct. I too, am someone who just, I do not see the logic in there being the supreme power that controls our lives, so.
Yeah.
It does, everything I've learned in life, that does not make sense. Okay, so I just don't believe that there is this higher power. Okay. But I take that to an extreme level,
Yeah.
where I'm not just an atheist.
Mhm.
I take it to a point where I refer to myself as a anti-theist,
Okay.
right? So this is going beyond saying that there's no God.
Mm.
I'm at a place where I believe it's even bad to believe in a religion that says there's a God.
Mhm.
And my rationale for that is, when you do have some group that says there is a God and you have to behave according to what this God wants you to behave, then that group is to dictate how you're gonna live your life.
Right.
And I don't want anyone telling me how to live my life.
Right.
It's been a struggle that I've had ever since I was a kid. When I grew up in a very religious home, my parents went to church every week, and every week, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, you need to stop doing that. At some point, fuck you, leave me alone. And so, I feel that religion's tendency to do that has polluted the world, has made, many humans see the world in a way that does not actually exist.
No,
Okay, so that's right.
it
Anyway,
can't be bad.
like a fantasy, right? And you're being ordered to live according to someone's fantasy that is not your fantasy.
Right.
Okay, so that's me. Anyway, beyond that, so let's say Jehovah's Witness does come to your,
Mhm.
right? For me, I'm like, get the fuck out of here, you asshole. Oh my god, that's
Yeah.
way too much. Yeah, just talking to that. Okay, but that's gonna be my reaction, right?
Yeah.
I might have a Jehovah's Witness though that knows about the door technique. Right, and oh shoot, me being anti-theist, I might be powerless against this technique. Right, what this smart Jehovah's Witness might do is make a small request at my door,
Mhm.
right? Or they might say, I'm not here to witness to you. No. Instead, I've been going door to door all day long. It's a hot Bakersfield day, and I'm parched. I am just asking you if I can get a glass of water. Okay, at that point, I'm kind of disarmed. I see the humanity in the person. It's like, all right, we're fellow human beings, even though you're whatever you are. I still feel compelled to help you out. I'm gonna give you a glass of water. Okay, so I do that, and as I'm doing, maybe I invite the guy in my house so he can have a drink of water, and we get into a conversation.
Yeah.
And that's where now, can I tell you about the power of God?
Sure.
And that's what he really wanted to do.
No,
What do you
Mormons
have?
do something similar.
What's that?
Mormons do something similar, but
What's-
they offer service instead. So if you need to have your yard mowed or something, you can ask any Mormon missionary that's walking around to help you out with doing your yard work or cleaning your house or something like that, and they'll help you.
Really?
Like guarantee that they will help you. But you have to listen to them.
Ah,
You have to listen to them. But you can get a lot of free work done.
I just like a week ago, I drove up from work. I was pulling my stuff out of my truck, going into my house. There was these people passing by my front yard, Mormons. They're all, hey, can I talk to you? Oh, leave me alone.
No.
And they're like, "Well, yeah, but leave me alone.
Right.
But sir, leave me alone.
My mom actually put up a sign in front of her house that says like no solicitors, looking like a really nice like white mom kind of sign, like super fancy script. And then at the bottom it says like, no, seriously, don't make it weird. Like, don't like you're gonna come to my house unless you got Girl Scout cookie.
Okay. Interesting.
Right.
Okay, so, that's the first technique, the foot in the door. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Sounds like you guys are knowledgeable about this stuff.
A little
Either
bit.
of you think you know what the next one is?
I'm thinking of low ball.
Low ball? I'm actually not gonna, talk about low ball. Well, I'll say something about it verbally, but let me make sure I understand what low ball is.
Mhm,
Low ball is where, you're about to like buy something
mhm,
and look at the car.
mhm,
And the car dealer offers a low price, you can get it for this much.
mhm,
And then, I'll get it at that low price.
mhm.
And then, as you're working on the contract, but I gotta throw in this, I gotta throw in that, and I gotta throw in that, and so the price goes up.
Yeah,
Is that it?
I think so.
I think so, okay.
Yeah, that one I always kind of was tricky on, but I remember the name. That's the thing.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. The next one I wanna go over though, I guess, I'm thinking more, cause with the low balling, I'm thinking that there's some lying involved in there. Where the person's gonna feel tricked, and they're not gonna agree to do this at point.
Right.
Okay, so this one, I don't see the person feeling as tricked. Or at least they're not being as obvious. This one is called the so the door in the face. Okay, and it's basically the opposite of the foot in the door. This one starts off with the big request. But let's remember that there's a mastermind at work here. Right, and what this mastermind is doing is making the big request. Where this mastermind knows that the big request is gonna receive an answer of no. The big request is going to be denied. But then, after that, person gets that answer of no, they're gonna follow, the request E is gonna follow up the no with a Well, so the requester, right, so the person making the request, the requester. Is going to see that the requestee said no. So the requester is gonna go from the big request to the large request, I'm sorry, the small request. Where the idea here is that then the small request is going to get a yes.
And don't they do that by like almost making it too big of a request, because your actual goal is the small request?
Yes, right, so yes, so this is the actual goal there. And yes, it does have to be. The big request does have to be a request big enough that is definitely gonna get denied.
So like when you go to like Costco, they're talking about the AC and this and that.
The ACs? I'm not a Costco shopper.
Oh,
I just got
What's-
membership.
What's that?
Just got membership.
they do that.
What's ACs?
Like the AC, like
Like
the,
air conditioner?
yeah, or the heater.
And so they sell those?
They're like standing with like papers and then they're like, oh, do you own a house? And then you say like, yes. And then they go like, oh, well, we have this blah, 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 blah. And well, since I don't have a house, I'm like, that.
Okay,
And so then they'll come back and be like, okay, but we have this other offer that's
Yeah.
not as much, but it'll still satisfy.
okay, so I see that fitting in that, they're making a request for the house, you're saying no, so they're gonna offer something else that doesn't appeal to you.
Yeah, like in the future.
Okay, interesting, interesting. Man, why would anyone become a Costco shopper?
Because you can buy things in bulk for a lot cheaper, having the membership, you get
Yeah.
a lot of discounts on your stuff.
A lot.
Plus, you also can get pharmacy discounts too, but you don't even need to have a membership to use the pharmacy.
No, I think you do.
No.
because- No.
No, because I can use it for a long time.
Okay,
Just got a membership.
The money, there is. $5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's almost too much for me to talk about. But, I think that's in the news right now, and that's a controversial topic in that, so, who's our governor?
Gavin Newsom.
So he, just eliminated the contract that he has with Walgreens.
Yeah, I saw that because they took like contraceptives or like specifically the Plan B pill off their market.
Yeah. And so now he's not gonna, let any state business happen with Walgreens.
Yeah, he's gonna like cancel all Walgreens.
That's interesting, so I didn't realize this was something was happening.
Oh, Gavin Newsom is very, very, very pro like California being an abortion sanctuary state. I
Okay.
did that part of go back to argument debate. I did a whole debate on
Okay,
abortion.
what I did not realize. I guess it's kind of so wrong in folks and stuff. I did not realize that, Plan B was sold in this way.
You just pick it up at a drugstore. Like,
so
you can pick it up at almost any drugstore. It's on the shelf next to the condoms usually.
with or without a prescription?
Without,
With the,
it's usually in like a locked box or something, but you just take that up to the front and they unlock it for you and you pay for it and you're okay.
I had no idea,
It used to be a prescription,
Okay,
or you could get it for free through Planned Parenthood.
oh, yeah.
Mhm.
okay, I think I have an example of this though. And I'm trying to think of what it is. What was it? It was that, oh, so I'm thinking in terms of just being an innocent vacuum cleaner salesman.
Yeah.
I don't know about this planning stuff.
So,
So, you're a vacuum cleaner salesman, right, and you're going door to door selling the product.
Mhm.
And so here, the big request is that you're going to just open up with, hey, can I demonstrate the power of my $1,000 vacuum cleaner?
Mhm.
Right, and it's gonna be too much for the housewife. I'm saying housewife here, because like something that happened like in 1950.
The door-to-door vacuum salesman.
Yes,
Yeah.
right, and what would happen back then
Get you
is,
a good Hoover.
what's that?
I said, get you a good Hoover.
Oh, okay. If I was a prison, I'd make a joke. But I'm not in prison, so I'm not gonna make a joke. Okay, I have a cough and I'm trying to keep my frame of mind here. And I'm trying to make this inappropriate jokes. Okay, so the big request is that you want to demonstrate the $1,000 vacuum cleaner. In the past, you're assuming that you're dealing with a housewife. Maybe she's bought products in the past before and she's gotten yelled at by her husband for doing this. So now, when you're there making that big request, she's gonna be, no, don't try to tell me anything, my husband's gonna yell at me, okay? And so that's why she's saying no. But you knew that she was gonna say no.
Mhm.
So then you're gonna say, well, are there any parts for the vacuum cleaner that you have that I can sell? Right, where these parts would be cheaper.
Oh,
Maybe instead of selling you the whole vacuum cleaner, I can sell you a new hose, or I can sell you a new bag, something along, and that is really what you want to do.
that's where you're gonna make the most money, is through the repairs.
Yes. There is a point that I forgot to make with the foot in the door. Let me just note, with the foot in the door, there's this premise upon which we say that, this technique is working. The name of the premise is referred to as behavioral momentum. Okay, so remember with foot in the door, it was that you started off with a small request and then you hit the big request. The reason why we refer to this as behavioral momentum is going back to that idea of physics, where in the discipline of physics, they talk about like bodies in motion,
Mhm.
right? And they say that if a body is in motion, that body has momentum. It's moving. Okay. And one law of physics is that they say a body that's in motion will continue to stay in motion as long as it doesn't hit anything else. Right, so like you got like some asteroid off in space, it's going in a direction, it's gonna keep on going in that direction forever, as long as it never hits anything else.
Mhm.
Here they're saying that behavior can work in the same way. If I start a behavior with that small request, I can think of that behavior continuing even with the big request, as long as that big request is not seen as an obstacle.
Mm.
Okay. So that's the premise upon which this is working.
Okay.
With the door in the face, there is a different premise that is at work here. And that premise will say, oh, here, the premise is based on the effect of guilt. Right, so door in the face. If its premise is that it's based on the effect of guilt, I guess the question is, well, how is it based on the effect of guilt? The idea here is when you have made a big request of someone and that big request has been denied, when that person has said that no, that person automatically feels a sense of guilt over the fact that they were denying somebody, right? They feel bad. And so in that moment, when they're feeling guilty, you set them up in a position where they're looking for a way to escape that feeling of guilt. It's almost like I've done something bad, it's just something I can do to fix the situation. And so they'll see the yes as the way, we'll say, the way out of guilt. Like the way of repairing the damage that they've done. And so that's the premise that the door in the face is based on. I'm wondering if it is then useful. Like so for Ashley, but and I get Beth, you're saying you have a boyfriend too, right? So for both of you, right? I'm wondering, in you dealing with your significant others here, if there is ever a situation where you do ask your boyfriend to do something and he says no, and you said that maybe that boyfriend does have a feeling of guilt inside of them. No.
Sometimes.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so they're not looking for, are they looking for a way to rectify the situation?
I feel like if I give them a smaller request after they said no, they'll say yes out of guilt kind of thing. They'll be like, well, I didn't help you with that last thing, so yeah, I guess I'll help you out with this one, especially since it's not too much energy.
Okay, right, and that's the idea,
Mhm.
right, so you,
So now they feel like that they've helped me, like they've done what I wanted, but at the same time, I was like, no, my actual thing was a big request.
yeah, so now you can take advantage of this, right, you can set it up to. Where you can try this,
Right.
Like if there is something that you want your boyfriend to do.
Actually, yeah, I did.
Start off with that thing that you know he doesn't wanna do, and then, well, okay, we'll just do this, and I'll be happy. Man,
It's like I don't expect him to clean the whole kitchen, but he has to do the dishes.
it's interesting, are you guys just saying, I'm in a kind of relationship right now. And I don't care, I'll do whatever it is to make her happy.
Nice.
But I feel I'm unique in that, or not unique, but. Is it a sign that I'm desperate, right? Cause.
No, not
Yeah.
necessarily.
Yeah, honestly, my boyfriend does whatever I want.
Well, if I ask him,
So he's desperate too. No?
I'm just asking, that's my issue.
Ah,
I don't wanna have to be able to ask him, I should be, we live together, and so I'm like, if you see that the place is looking dirty, clean it, but his expectations for how the apartment looks are different than my expectations, and I'm lowering my expectations, but we're trying to like equal each other out. And so it can be frustrating sometimes, but it's silly to be upset for it, like if you guys have the dishes.
Right,
What's that?
I said I'm scared of that.
I'm just strict.
Yeah.
You're scared,
Me too.
what are you scared?
That, cause, I'm planning on moving with my boyfriend
Okay.
in like 5 months. So I told him like straight up, like I literally, I was like, sit down, we gotta have a talk, and I'm really like, ooh,
No,
no,
living together before you get married.
yeah, I'm like, no dishes on the sink, like no trash on the floor.
Scream at my house.
Yeah,
Like,
like-
the things that
The
happen.
room, yeah, I guess, like the room is whatever for me, cause I never have my room like extremely.
If I see a clean room, there's something wrong with
Yeah, but the kitchen and the living room, that has to stay clear. And I'm like, okay, but like, you're gonna like. Do something, and then he's like, oh, could you, I'll do that, I'm like, well.
So your expectations a little bit, having sometimes it's like, and like, leaving off, if you give yourself like 30 minutes, you can have the whole place looking great.
Yeah,
But-
but it's afternoon, so we have the whole days like clean. If I'm not doing homework, of course.
My boyfriend was just been making me, so I'm like,
Oh,
oh, cleaning and doing homework.
Sometimes I.
Y'all remind me, my first live-in relationship, I was a slob. And I remember, she would complain about it, we got together at the beginning of the summer. And it was over by the end of the summer. And I remember the day she walked out, I had not cleaned anything up,
Oh.
but there was a straw that broke the camel's back. She had this little statue like an Indian, and something happened where, like she had it next to a wall or something, and, it tipped over and broke.
Mhm.
And she walks in, she sees the mess, and then she sees the broken Indian, she walks right back. And never came back. I got a bunch of pictures of it.
Jesus.
It was over. It was over.
At least it only lasted a couple months and you didn't put in a whole investment into it.
Yeah,
Like an emotional investment.
yeah. Well. Hmm.
But I mean, for like years and years and years and years, and then it breaks up.
Alright, so. Anyway. One last thing I wanna talk about, one last technique I wanna talk about is the, that's not all technique.
Feeling things, what's up?
Okay, so now this one is specific in that you've already changed the request these months. You're already gonna get them to say yes. But now what you're gonna do is you're gonna offer a bonus to follow instructions. Okay, and that's the narrative, that's the main thing. Right, for example, I'm sure that you guys, well, I don't know. This kind of comes back in my mind from, when they used to have the, like the, infomercials.
That's exactly what I'm thinking of. I'm
Okay.
thinking of but wait, there's more.
Yes,
Yeah.
right, yes. I
You
don't,
can, if you just do 4 payments of $29.99.
okay, and the reason why I say that.
Yeah.
I haven't owned a TV,
Don't worry, they still do them.
okay.
They do still do them.
Okay, so right, it's that, to buy right now, right, is the specific instruction that we usually get with this. The idea is that, they want you to buy right now, but do you have a sense of why they want that immediate purchase?
I feel like that's, oh,
No,
sorry,
you go.
like that applies with the iPhone,
Okay,
like, they don't really tell you to buy it, but you're like, oh, shit, like, that's new, so I'm gonna buy it, and then I don't have the whole money right now, so I'm gonna pay.
okay.
Yeah,
I'm saying a bit more specific to the infomercial.
I was thinking of like impulsivity, like,
Okay,
if they're telling you like, hey, this is only here for a short amount of time, if you buy this right now, kind of thing, like.
Yes.
You're like, oh my god, I have to get this, like your impulsivity, like what might kick in.
Yes.
You're like, well, I don't have very much time to get this.
yes, so it is on that, and the idea is, along that line, you are only gonna be interested for a short period of time. After that window is gone, you're not gonna be like, gonna buy the product anymore.
Right,
Yeah.
So they're saying, if you buy it in the next 10 minutes, we'll throw in these extra things.
yeah,
So to get you to do it while you're still interested.
makes sense.
Um,
So my grandma became a hoarder.
okay. I'm just kind of wondering. So you guys aren't offering any infomercials, but you do talk about your relationships. And so I'm wondering, with this technique, how might you use it with your significant others?
Um.
So let's think first, let's go with something PG rated. That you want your significant other to do.
Like. I really don't know.
Oh, anyways, okay,
I'm thinking more of infomercials, that's what I'm leaning towards, I just can't think of, I mean,
well, we have to plan this for our lives,
I know, right?
right? And so let's say, you're talking about cleaning up the house, okay?
If you get this done within like 10 minutes, or if you get this done before I'm home, then I'll let you play Overwatch for like 3 hours or something, I don't know.
You what?
I'll let you play a video game for like 3 hours or something, I don't know.
And is that like actually within your power?
Not
to-
personally, though. I'm just
Okay.
thinking of like an example of what someone else could do. I know that that's not gonna happen in my situation.
I wanna,
I know.
I wanna see if we can think about something in your life that you can control. Did you have an idea? So first, let's think about in terms with you and your boyfriend, what would you want your boyfriend to do? So let's think just in terms of like, is there something that your boyfriend is not doing enough of right now? Or maybe he's doing too much of?
Well, I guess the whole like mommy thing, I'm like, if you don't do it, like, I literally told him when the whole disagreement happened, I was like, if you don't talk to your mom, I'm gonna go up to her and then I'm gonna tell her the truth. And then he knows that when it comes to my family, I get really, really aggressive, like mad aggressive. And yeah, like I'm really defensive. And I'm the type of person that really talks mad shit. I'm not, I can be respectful, yes, because you're like older, yeah, and you're my boyfriend's mom, but you cross the line of respect. So obviously I was not gonna be like, okay, look, like, you don't say this, I would have been like, you fuck up, like, you don't say that.
When I hear you talk about this, I get one kind of sense of something. The sense I get is that in those moments, like when his mom says something that insults or offends you, he is clueless that you are insulted or offended.
Yeah,
So in that moment, like, and I think that you're, in that moment, you're wanting him to defend you to his.
I told him, yeah, I was like, you just don't say anything, you stay quiet, and then he was like, I didn't realize that she did that, and I was like, of course.
Right, so with that, I'm wondering if there's like some communication that you give him.
Yeah.
Where there's a signal that, hey, this is that moment where you need to speak up.
Yeah, I guess he's the type of person that is like, doesn't know how to defend like anything in his life, like his money, his things, like him, like me, and like I get it, like he has to learn, and I think this is the chance that he has of like, hey, like you have to respect like my girlfriend because she has been respectful. Yeah, I do talk mad shit with my friends about her, but I don't talk mad shit with like
in front of her.
him. Or like in front of her. I'm like really respectful, and yeah, I guess that was his chance of like, like, hey, like mom, like I need to talk to you like in a respectful way. And yeah, he did that, and I was like, okay, cool, like you do that, and then I'm not gonna get mad. So I think that's the bonus that he gets. That I don't get mad.
Is that enough?
For him, yeah, cause like
Okay.
I get really, when I get mad, I
What, you shut down,
just get really aggressive.
really aggressive?
Yeah, I'm like I just need my space.
Okay, okay. And you leave the house?
Well, I left the house that day because I was like, for some reason, my blood was just really hot. And I was like, okay, like I really need to go home. And I was just like, okay, I'll go.
And mom got it, she knew where you were living?
No, she was in her room, and then I was like I was just not comfortable, and then I was like, hey, I'm leaving. And then he didn't like, he was just ignoring me, and I was like, hey, I'm leaving. And then he's like, oh shit, like my bad. And I was like, okay. And then he was like, do you want to say bye to my mom? And I was like, yeah. And he was just clueless. He was just like, oh, like everything's normal. And then I was like, okay, bye. And then he was like, bye. And I was like, bro, like he really doesn't know. And then I was just like, hey, come back. And then I was like, oh, well, your mom said this. And then his face was like, I was like, yeah, that's your mommy right there.
Right.
Okay, okay.
See, I have a hard time with this one too, because like. I mean, specifically with my relationship, I have very much like in my head, if I really want something to be done, I'll just do it.
Mhm.
Like, I'll just get it done. But me and my boyfriend have communicated about certain things that like we both like are tasked to do, specifically what he is tasked to do. Because I will just do everything else kind of like haphazardly.
What's a task that he has?
He has to do the dishes.
The dishes.
That's his main chore is to do the dishes,
Okay, so
And-
I'm seeing something around this.
right?
The dishes.
I feel like I should try to come up with something, like actually like apply it to.
Well, let me ask this, is there like a certain time when he has to have the dishes done? Like is it every day, after a meal?
Man, you would not like my answer. It's like once a week we do the dishes. And the thing is like in my head, I'm like, well, if I really wanna have a dish done, instead of getting on him and getting mad at him for it, I'll just wash the bowl. Like, it's whatever. It's washing a single bowl or something. I'm not gonna do all of them, and that's the thing. That's the consequence, is that we're gonna have a bunch of dishes sitting there until you do all the dishes. But if I need my one dish, I'll go wash it. I'm not gonna go bother him about it.
Do you think that you're doing that one dish? Says to him that his responsibility is lessened,
Possibly.
and so he's less likely to do dishes because you did the one dish.
Right, but at the same time, like, it's not gonna cause us to break up, not dishes, like, that's stupid. Like, that's such a silly thing to fight over, that I don't care to let that get in the middle of our relationship.
Okay,
That's it, right? And I'm like,
so not so much that.
I don't think, I've been learning through therapy to like lower my expectations for things, and that has helped a lot with our relationship. Honestly, I'm a lot happier, like, and I'm okay with it.
So that's good,
Mhm.
but I'm also
I'm trying to
thinking,
think of how this.
right, so I'm also thinking that
Mhm.
there are the things that we want in life.
Mhm.
And there's nothing wrong with being manipulated. Right, manipulative to obtain those things.
Alright, oh, you know, what? I have an idea, so he likes his car a lot, I do not like his car that much, I mean, like, I'm happy that he has his car, I do not like riding in it, it is bumpy, it's loud. I can't hear anything, he doesn't even have visors, and I'm too short, and the sun is killing me every time that I'm in it. So,
Good bird.
every Saturday, so after I get out of class, we usually go over to his cousin's house. I could think of, if he does the dishes, we can take his car. I'll ride in his car with him. And so,
What kind of bird?
it's a Scion FRS.
Okay, I've seen those Scions. but that's like a-
I never heard of it until he got one, and now I see them everywhere. I mean, that's what I call the Grand Theft Auto effect, where in the game, when you unlock a car or you buy a car, you start seeing that car all over the game because now it's accessible. You have that car now, you can ride it anywhere. But you're not gonna be seeing all the more expensive cars until you unlock those ones.
Okay,
So in real life, I've noticed. If you or your significant other or someone that you're really close to has a specific car, you're gonna see that car everywhere. Like, and so I started seeing his car everywhere, all the different colors and everything.
alright, I'll take a look at it.
Uh-huh.
What don't you like about it?
It's just bumpy, it
Bumpy?
doesn't have great,
Oh, like when you guys go over stuff, you can feel it?
yeah, like, it's just, I don't know, it just bothers me after a while.
Oh my
Don't
god.
worry, I'm sorry about that, that was a health thing.
I thought you were hiding your phone there.
So that's his car from behind, he doesn't have any from the front though, that's a shitty car.
Well,
You know what?
sounds like
You
it's
know what?
broken.
And I'm like, as long as you pay your car bills,
It's new?
as long as you, no, it's not new, it was used, it's like 2016. But I'm like, as long as you can make your payments and pay all the rest of your bills, and you're not getting behind anything, you can do whatever you want to your,
How long you guys?
up for years.
3 years?
Yeah. They've been living together for almost the same amount of time,
You started living together like soon after
during
during COVID?
COVID, yeah.
Were you friends before?
So it was, it's kind of weird how we both met. I met him through Tinder by proxy. So I matched with this guy named Anthony. Turns out I know a bunch of Anthony's friends. I did a lot of drumline stuff with them when I was younger.
You lost me on the Tinder by proxy.
So I met this guy named Anthony on Tinder. Nothing really happened. And he noticed that we both have like a lot of friends in common through Instagram. So he sent a picture, like a screenshot, and like, hey, do you guys know this girl? Is she cool and stuff? And they're like, yeah, she's cool. My boyfriend was one of the few people who hadn't met me at the time. And nothing ever happened between me and Anthony, and so he sent me a message, Steven sent me a message, and then we both just started talking, I was single, I was like, whatever. I'll message you, like, no problem.
I'm still confused about the Tinder by proxy.
So do you know what by proxy means? It's like, I think of Munchausen.
What's Tinder?
Tinder, it's a dating app.
Is it the hetero? one?
I mean, yeah, but it could also go any way that you want, really, but it's.
Oh, Grindr's the game.
Grindr's specifically a gay one,
Okay.
Tinder could be, but it depends on your preferences.
Okay,
But,
so the by proxy part,
so by proxy, I always think of,
like.
did you ever hear that Gypsy Rose girl, the girl who she had Munchausen by proxy? Her mom made her sick, essentially, made her seem like this crippled lit girl and stuff that was stuck in a wheelchair and had to take all these medications, but she wasn't, she was actually normal. And her mom had this thing called Munchausen syndrome, basically pretending that you're sick to get attention and stuff, and made her daughter be the sick one. So she had that by proxy. So by proxy means like, you're not, like, I didn't meet him directly through Tinder. I met him because I met someone else through Tinder. It's complicated. We both live together and we have 2
So
cats now.
you don't, you're not status, your status is not by proxy,
No,
it's that you met. him
I met
by proxy.
him through Tinder by proxy. Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I've been
Okay.
telling everyone.
Okay,
But we started talking on Instagram, not through Tinder. That's the thing.
how soon after did you guys move in together?
About 3 months. It was really quick, but at the same time, we both were spending a lot of time together, because everything was shut down. And so we both could just go to the park, smoke a little bit of weed together, and we just spent a ton of time together. And
May I comment
Yeah.
on some of your stuff that you
Yeah.
wrote? You said that you smoked a lot of weed.
yeah,
My understanding of like weed smokers
Mhm.
is that they tend to be male or men as
Mhm.
opposed to women. Is that your experience too?
It's about 50-50, honestly, almost.
And
Almost all of my friends, regardless if they're a guy or girl, smoke weed. And I feel like I personally have more female friends at the moment. And most of my guy friends, usually most of them are working at a job where they get drug tested, so they can't smoke weed. And so that's what I've been seeing a lot lately.
Okay,
Mhm.
I don't know any ladies.
I know a lot of girls, a
Yeah.
lot of,
What's up?
My sister does that.
Your sister?
my whole family does.
But not you.
I used to, but I didn't.
Is it an Amazon thing?
No, because I have anxiety that would like give me
Oh.
more anxiety.
Black pepper,
Like.
What?
black table pepper. There's trichomes. That's fine, but you don't have to like it. I mean, if you want to smoke weed,
What are you gonna do with the black?
you sniff it,
You
Like-
sniff?
like almost snort it.
Oh, no.
And you
But-
crush it up and you like almost snort it, and what it's supposed to do is calm you down from the anxiety that we can inhibit.
Just take one hit?
Yeah.
Alright.
That's what I've been told. I haven't tried it because I don't normally get anxiety. But that's what I've read a lot about it, and so I'm like, that should work technically.
Okay, Ashley, we're not gonna ask you to do your test case.
Don't worry. I'm just saying, if you ever have that moment where you gotta, like, just bring some black table.
Does your boyfriend smoke? No,
Never.
never in his life?
He's like.
That's why. My boyfriend's an atheist.
That's like the devil.
My boyfriend's.
But you're commenting about, your boyfriend's, religiosity too. Where, do you mind if I, like, say what you said in your thingy?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're saying that, you see that he has this, tendency to, like, think religious, but not behave religious.
Oh, yeah, he does that all the time. And I'm like, I'm like, it's funny because his mom thinks that he like lost his virginity with me, but he did. That's why his mom is like, oh no, you're like a bad influence. And I'm like, honey, no, you're kidding. Right, yeah.
And you haven't told her that?
But I'm like,
Okay.
okay.
Okay, I was conversing with, Beth because you'd gone. Now I feel like I gotta converse with you.
Yeah.
Okay, but I don't know anything about him. I've had Beth for like, this is like third class that I'm taking with her.
Oh, no.
So let me ask you, look, I forget if I've asked this already. What is your career goal? Did you say school psychologist?
Yeah.
And is that still your career goal this time? What's your plan as far as your education?
Honestly, I didn't know that I had to like get the other degree.
The master's?
Yeah, so once I've been, like, I graduate from like Bakersfield College, I'm a transfer to CSUB and then I'm gonna do those 2 years and then I'm just gonna like, just do that.
Well, I'm sorry, I lost one. You said that you're gonna go to CSUB
Yeah,
and, where are you gonna get your bachelor's at CSUB?
yeah,
Oh, and then you're gonna stay for the master's too?
yeah,
Oh, okay. So you're gonna do everything at CSUB. And then it sounds like you'll try and, get a job like in this area too?
yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying right now, but I don't know, I really don't know why they didn't accept my application at the school. They accept, one of my DS friends, no, something like that, and they didn't accept mine, but I,
CSUB.
no, at the school, cause I applied for, like, to work at school.
Oh,
And-
as, with
after
the, okay,
And I feel like they didn't accept my application because my high school diploma is in Spanish. So I feel like that's the reason why, but I'm not sure.
when did you apply and get tonight?
I applied like a month ago.
A month ago? How did you find out that you got tonight?
Because this lady or a friend of my tia, she applied after me and she's like working already.
So you haven't actually been contacted by the school?
No, but they usually do that like 2 weeks after you apply.
Why not call them and ask them?
I told my tia about that and then she said no, and I was like, but I think I have the right though, to like ask like, hey, like, do you guys
Yeah,
my application or something? But I really don't know the number of like district.
no, I would do it. And my reason for wanting to do it is I wanna know why.
Yeah, I really wanna know because like, if it's something about my high school diploma, then I can just like translate that, like, it's really easy, it doesn't take much.
And I'd also wanna know, because, I might wanna apply for the same position later.
Yeah,
And I wanna know, well, am I gonna get denied or not? And if I do, why? And is there something I can do to fix it?
yeah, I feel like it's gonna be more my high school diploma, and I really need to know because if that's gonna be affecting my application at like other schools, then I have to really like translate that professional.
And it does sound like to get in that master's program and stuff, you do wanna start getting that school experience. Cause
Yeah.
you'll be a more, likely candidate for those.
Yeah.
Uh. Maybe try applying to a different district.
Mm, I guess it depends where you live. If you live like, um, they told me something about it. If you live far from the school, then you're most likely not to get.
I would not do it. I'll say it, so I worked for the school districts a lot too, right, this was in Stockton, so it might be different out here. But, there was never any concern of how far you are.
Oh, okay.
Right, for me, it was, like, I was working as a substitute teacher, and any district would have been willing to take me because they needed subs.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking it's the same thing out here, they're willing to take whoever's gonna apply because they need personnel.
Yeah, my tia told me that they were hiring a lot of people.
Yeah.
And yeah, like when I was doing my test, like I've seen a lot of people. That's why I'm like really confused.
When you say test, what kind of test?
I forgot the name. The test that you need to like work like for the after school program. Oh, there's certain positions that you just literally do that test. You don't need to go to school. And then you just pass that, it's English, math, and then I guess communication or something like that. You pass those three and then you're good to work in after school program or like just like lower positions.
And it sounds like you're not worried about how you did all those tests.
I pass all the tests, so that's how I apply, because if I don't have that, if I have two but not the third one, then I cannot apply.
So you have to pass the.
Yeah,
Okay. So that's not the issue.
yeah, that's not the issue.
Are you, so I'm hearing that you're at Amazon. Are you happy at Amazon? Or would
Yes.
you prefer to get inside the school and stuff?
Yeah, I feel like I'm not leaving Amazon. That's a big no-no for me because I have this schedule called Flex, which like basically I do my schedule. Like if I want to work only 4 hours and like in the week, I just only work 4 hours. And that's really helpful for like to have another job. So I can just my minimum of hours, it's 4 hours. So I can just work 4 hours and I'm not gonna get fired.
Okay, and so you could go get like the job at school too?
Yeah.
Okay, I strongly encourage you to go figure out what happened at
Yeah.
school.
I'm doing that.
Okay, I'm gonna go and get back into this. Let's say that I am gonna talk about one more topic. Holy mackerel. I can't believe I'm taking this long.
Don't worry, you're okay.
Okay, so one more topic and we'll see that we're done. I'll note that. I'm gonna describe this last topic and then we're gonna talk about an experiment to do with it and then we're done with that.
Yeah.
Okay, the last topic is now. Beliefs. And yeah, what's that?
It's like, are you gonna zap us, shock us all?
Yes. That's where we're going. And so this is the last way that we're gonna talk about the power of social pressure. Okay, and it sounds like you've heard this spiel before.
I took a bunch of psychology classes.
Okay, I'm gonna see if I can throw something extra on this, maybe something that you haven't heard before. But let's make sure that we know that we talk about obedience, psychology, we're basically talking about following the orders of the authority figure. So this is different from compliance, right? Because when we're in compliance, we said that you can say no without being punished. But in obedience, if you say no, you will be punished. Okay. Okay, so that then leads to the big question. Big question. Where we could ask, is it always a good idea? Right? Is it always a good idea to be obedient in any time you've ever been ordered to do something? And really, this is leading to a scenario where someone was given an order, and it was a heinous order, it was a horrible order. Even though it was a horrible order, this person carried it out anyway. Okay. So they obeyed even in a time when they should not have obeyed. The example that we talked about, you know the example I'm talking about?
I forgot exactly the name of it, but the one where they ordered them to shop, like the TV.
So that we're going,
Okay,
we're not there.
I'm thinking Nazis also.
Yes, it is Nazi. Do you know, Ashley, do you know a man named Adolf Hitler? No, okay,
Mhm.
I'll let you go, then I'm gonna have to, okay, okay, so we are talking about Adolf Hitler,
I do know what it is, yeah.
okay. And we spell it this way. Um. So, do you recall why he's famous?
Cause he was the one who basically orchestrated the Holocaust.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I like to put it in simple terms.
Yes, so he was Hitler's architect of death. And that he did basically coordinate the genocide against the
Like all the concentration camps and stuff.
yes, right, so Hitler wanted to get rid of these people as quickly, efficiently as possible, with killing as many people as possible.
Mhm.
And I was the guy who came up with the system how to do it.
If you ever get a chance to go to a concentration camp, do take it. Like if you're ever in Europe and stuff, no, I went to, I've only been to one. And it was like when I was in third grade, it was like my first exposure to like the Holocaust. Oh my God, that. It's mind blowing, honestly, like to see what they did do and the atrocities that happened, like.
How did you find it?
It's a museum now
Okay,
and
but,
in Germany.
yeah, so you're on a trip?
No, I lived there for 9 years. My dad was in the military.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we got to travel all throughout Europe while we lived there.
Am I hearing, what did your dad do for the military?
He was a firefighter in the Air Force.
A firefighter in the Air Force?
Mhm.
Okay. But then I'm hearing that, later he dies. Drug overdose.
That was years and years later. So about 10, 11 months before he passed away, we stopped here in Bakersfield. So we lived in Germany for 9 years and we lived in Colorado for 3 years. And then we got orders to move to Okinawa, Japan. And while we were here in Bakersfield visiting, because my parents are from here, like my parents went to North High School, my grandparents went to North High School. He was in a motorcycle accident that caused a leg amputation. And so we didn't go to Japan, we stayed here instead.
Did he have to retire at that point?
No, actually, they didn't force him to retire after the accident. They kept him active duty still. They moved his orders to be at Edwards Air Force Base before it became Space Force Base. But basically, he had to have surgery on his knee, and then 4 days after his surgery, he took his prescription medication, and I don't know if he just wasn't paying attention to it. I still don't know 100% what happened, but they said that it was just enough to kill him, basically.
Oh.
Yeah, it was just enough medication. It wasn't like a suicide overdose where normally with a suicide, you see like an extreme amount, but his was just enough to kill him.
Okay,
Yeah.
I had a completely wrong impression. of
Oh,
what
it's
it
okay,
was.
don't worry, don't worry.
I was gonna say that, so I thought that like he had, become a drug addict.
No, I mean, he technically probably started to because he was on a ton of heavy medications. Lots of things to treat not only just pain, but also phantom pain, which was a big one. Because he could still feel his other leg, even though it wasn't there anymore. And so they put him on a lot of medications, and I'm assuming they put him on more medications after the surgery.
Okay,
And so that's my assumption, is that he accidentally just took too much.
okay,
Like he woke up in a lot of pain, just took his pills, and it just was a bad combination.
sorry to hear that.
And it's okay. It's been about 13, yeah, this year makes 13 years. And so I've done a lot of grieving and a lot of healing from it, and I'm very open with talking about it.
Okay,
Yeah, so don't worry. I take no offense if people ask questions,
okay, glad to hear the healthy reaction.
right?
Okay, so. Then we know that the whole issue of talking about Adolf Eichmann
Mhm.
in this discussion is that Adolf Eichmann was this person who received this heinous order that he probably should not have followed.
Mhm.
Okay, right, so he's the Hitler's architect of death, he's created the concentration camps, all that kind of stuff. Actually, I am looking to see if you are familiar with this discussion. So we're talking about World War II. And in World War II, the big enemy that everyone's trying to beat is Adolf Hitler. I don't think that you're familiar with that part. No, okay. So yeah, he's this big dude that is basically
A dictator.
a dictator, right? He's
Yeah.
causing a lot of issues in the world.
Did he have a daughter?
He did, no daughters, but he did marry a young lady.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, and the big, I guess the big crime that Hitler committed, like he committed a bunch of crimes, but the main one was that he started a genocide where he killed 6 million Jews. People of Jewish descent.
Yeah,
Okay.
now I remember.
Okay, and so the issue that we're talking about here is that there's this other guy named Adolf Eichmann.
It's like his right hand man.
Right. He is the guy who actually carries out the genocide for Hitler. Okay. Now, the issue with this is that Hitler loses the war, and the United States and other countries, they win the war.
Mhm.
But so this dude is a Nazi, right? And he is doing stuff for Hitler's Nazi army. After the war is over, this man, Adolf Eichmann, escapes Germany. And he's able to flee. And one thing that he flees is all the Nazis are now being put on trial for all these bad things that they did during the war.
Yeah, trying for the war crimes.
Right, trying to do war crimes and convicting law guys.
Mhm.
A lot of Nazis get executed at this time.
Mhm.
He's able to escape it at first in that he flees to South America and hides out there for a long time.
He went to Argentina, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then what happens is Israel becomes a nation, right? They were the people of the Jews who were being killed.
Mhm.
When they become a nation, they send out their secret service to hunt him down. And they bring him back to Europe where they put him on trial. And now he's supposed to stand trial. The charge that he's been given is murdering the 6 million Jews.
Mhm.
Okay. But as he's on trial, they ask him, well, what are you gonna plead? Right? You're being accused of this crime, what's your plea? He says, I'm innocent. You can't charge me, you can't hold me guilty for this. His reason why he says he's innocent is that he was being a good soldier. He was following the orders of Hitler, his commander, doing what his boss told him to do. Right, so I was just being a good soldier, you can't hold me responsible for being a good soldier for anything I did. So the question is, did the people that put him on trial agree with his plea, or did they disagree with it? And the answer is, they disagreed with it, they still found him to be guilty. And whereas they found him to be guilty, they did end up executing him, right, so he was executed. Okay, held responsible for his crime. However, this excuse that he uses, right, this defense that he uses where he says, I was just being a good soldier, was something that bothered many people. Okay. I have to erase it. So you guys have this written down? Okay, so I'm gonna erase this to get out how this becomes an issue. A little bit later, there's an American psychologist, and his name is Stanley Milgram. And he's a psychologist that lives between 1933 and 1984. And we'll know he's this American psychologist. And him being an American psychologist, you may be able to tell from his name that he is of Jewish descent. So whereas he's this American psychologist who's of Jewish descent, he is someone who lost a lot of family members in that war. Right? They were killed in that genocide. And so he's hurting, he's in pain over that, he's sorry that he lost all his relatives. But then the pain is increased when he hears the defense from that general, oh, I was just following orders, so you can't hold me responsible. So this psychologist becomes very afraid of that excuse. And the fear is that other people today can be in the same position where they're going to be told to do something horrible and they're going to do it anyway, just because someone in authority told them to do it. So what we decide to do as psychologists is to study whether the everyday person would do something like this. Okay. And so he comes up with an experiment where he's going to test this. Now let's so we'll say he comes up with an experiment. And in the experiment, he starts off with a theory that the experiment is based on. Where that theory says that humans will obey even heinous orders. Right, so that's this theory. It's based on that defense that Eichmann gave. He's afraid that other people are going to do this, and so he wants to test to see if this theory is true. Okay, so he develops a method of the experiment where he's gonna come up with a scenario in which he's going to test people. The scenario that he develops, it's kind of like he develops a fake teaching strategy. And in this fake teaching strategy, he recruits participants to come to a study, an experiment that he's conducting. For the participants that he recruits, he tells them, you're going to be in a study where you're going to help me test the effectiveness of this new teaching strategy. Okay. And the strategy, the experiment's going to have different positions, different people playing different roles. One type of person that he's going to recruit is a actual, real participant. Okay, so this is someone who's like someone who lives in town, hears about some experiment that's been conducted, And this person wants to get involved because they're looking to make some extra money by just involving themselves in the experiment as a participant. Okay. So the real participant is volunteer to participate in the study. There also is a fake participant. And we refer to this as a fake participant in that it's someone who is an actor. And they're being paid to play a role. They're being paid to play the role of a student in the experiment. And we should say they're also being paid to play the role of the participant in an experiment where they're given the role of the student. Okay. So if the fake participant is actually an actor pretending to be a participant, where that person has been given the role of the student, then over here we're saying that the real participant is given the role of being a teacher. Okay, and so the idea here is the real participant is being told, you're the teacher in the experiment where we're testing this new teaching strategy. You're going to work with this other participant who the real participant thinks is another real participant, is a fake participant. And this fake participant is being given this role of student. Okay. Then there's this third figure in the experiment called the researcher. And the researcher is someone who is supposed to look professional. So they look professional because they are wearing a lab coat. And the idea with that is that the researcher is now playing the role of a authority figure. Okay, so at this point, we should now explain what is the fake teaching strategy that's being tested in the experiment. The fake teaching strategy is that the teacher shocks students for mistakes. Okay, so the idea here is the teacher has been given a job of teaching the student a list of words. After that student has learned the list of words, the student then is supposed to recite the list of words. Okay, so I think it was like a list of like 10 words. They say one word, if they get it right, everything's okay. But if the student tries to recite a word and makes a mistake, then the teacher is supposed to shock the student for that mistake. The idea is the shock acts as a punishment that will make the student want to get the correct answer the next time. Right, so that's the whole strategy. We're going to get the right answer because I don't want to get shocked here. Okay. In truth, it's all a fake. And the reason why it's all fake is what's going to happen is the student is going to pretend to make mistakes. Right, so that's going to lead the teacher to have to shock a lot. Right, and it's kind of interesting the way that the thing is set up. It's that the student is hooked up to this machine that's going to deliver shocks through this electrical cord. And the machine looks really scary. It's got like all these buttons that go down this row. And the buttons start off on the left side being mild shocks. But as the person like shocks more and more and more, the level of the shock at this end is now high shocks, right, or intense shocks. Okay? And so what's happening is, throughout the experiment, the fake participant is playing the role of the student, is pretending to make mistakes, so the teacher has to shock them. And the student is acting up in that every time he gets shocked, he makes this pain reaction, like, oh, that hurt, right? And as the shock level increases, the student starts to say more and more things where they're proclaiming pain, right? They get to this point and they'll start to say things like, oh, I don't think I can take another shock, or oh, I think my heart's gonna give out, right?
Mhm.
So that what's happening here is the teacher is being motivated to quit. Okay. Now remember that the teacher is the actual real participant in the study. And so here's where the point of the study starts to come into play. The question that's being asked is, the teacher at some point says, screw this, I'm quitting, I'm not gonna do this anymore. As soon as that teacher says, I'm quitting, the researcher comes over, right, wearing their lab coat and pretending to be this authority figure, comes over and says, the teacher, you can't quit. You gotta keep on delivering shocks. And the reason he says, it's imperative that you continue because this is very important data that we're collecting. Right, so it gives them some kind of rationale, but the bottom line is that the authority figure is ordering the teacher to continue hurting the student. So the whole question is, does teacher stop? Do they actually quit? Right, so the teacher is being ordered to do something heinous. They're being ordered to cause someone an intense amount of pain. Is the teacher gonna stop doing it when they recognize how much pain they're causing? Or is the teacher going to continue? Right, so that's the question. Let's talk about the result. The result of the study is that about 65% of the participants continued. Right, so the slight majority actually continue with the shocks. They continue delivering the pain. So the conclusion here from this study is kind of a sad conclusion. Right? The conclusion is that humans will follow horrible orders. Okay? And so it ends up being this really sad finding that we find out about human behavior, where we will hurt other people just because someone in charge tells us to do it.
Mhm.
You know, I have to talk to you guys about something that happened to me with this week. Okay. I told you that I teach this to incarcerated students in prison.
Mhm.
When I presented this to my students, they had the opposite reaction from which I hoped they would have.
Yeah.
And their reaction was, what's wrong with continuing to do the bad thing?
Wow, I wasn't expecting that from
Me neither.
incarcerated students.
I told them, I am shocked and surprised.
Literally.
Right, literally, yes. But I've been thinking about it since then, and I kind of actually, now kind of see where they're coming from with this. In their day-to-day life, they actually live this in prison.
Yeah. Mhm.
Right, in that, in the prison, you have to gain
I was thinking of gangs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just to survive, you gotta join the gang. It's against your will, against your choice,
Right.
right? And so you get in there and you're ordered, and the way the gangs are organized is by race, right? How you identify physically. Are you seen as white? Are you seen as black? Are you seen as Mexican or Korean or Asian?
Yeah.
And those are the 4 categories. And once you're seen as belonging to a category, the members of that category are going to tell you once you get to prison, okay, if you want to be protected, you got to do these things that we tell you to do,
Mhm.
right? And it includes things like if the boss, like the gang boss, says that you got to go beat somebody up, you got to go beat them up. If the gang boss tells you that you got to sneak in some drugs, you got to sneak in the drugs.
Mhm.
The one example of that is so the prisoners they get to oh sorry let me just answer this real quick. Sorry, this is a sig other we haven't talked in a while. Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Oh shoot. I think that Leslie just saw that conversation. Okay, hopefully she didn't. Okay. So I'm almost done. Almost done. Where was it? Oh, so if you're in the prison, it is an everyday fact of life that you live this, where you're being told to do heinous things and you have no choice. If you want to survive, you gotta do the thing.
Right.
And so now I kind of, that's this, what they're talking about
Mhm.
with the inmates.
I mean, that's how gangs are also outside of prison too.
Right, also
Yeah.
outside prison. So, it's a very sad comment on human behavior.
Right.
For me, I guess I've been teaching this for many years, and for most of the time I've been teaching this, I've been teaching it to non-incarcerated students.
Yeah.
And so every time I teach it with my non-incarcerated students, everyone agrees it's bad to follow heinous orders.
Mhm.
And so now I have this point of view where, well, but here's a situation where it's not bad.
Right.
And so I'm wondering if it's possible to change that culture inside of the prison.
Right.
And at least at this point, it doesn't sound like it is because there is this, they call it prison politics,
Mhm.
where you do have to behave according to these rules. And if you don't, you will be killed.
Yeah.
For doing so. The other thing that you can do is they have 2 sections of the prison, one called the general population section, and the other one called the special needs yard. General population people is everyone that gets there, the gang members, everyone, they all live in this house.
Mhm.
But you may be an inmate that lives in that unit and you become in danger for some reason,
Yeah.
right? And so now there are threats where people are gonna kill you and beat you up. But you have to be taken out of that general population.
I heard they'll put a lot of child molesters in
Yes.
the special areas
Yes.
because
Yes.
you don't touch kids, like just don't
Yes,
touch
so
kids.
that's one main rule we have.
Yeah.
If that's your conviction, you are an automatic target.
Yeah.
Where, and it's one of those
You better
things
keep
where,
that secret.
right, and the gang members will go and they'll kill you or they'll hurt you. Because if they do kill a child molester, that's gonna look good to them with the other gang members.
I've been seeing news about this one guy who's killed multiple child molesters. And people are like, do we praise him or do we not praise him? Like,
Right.
everyone's kind of conflicted. They're like, give this man an award, but at the same time, he just killed a person. So it's like,
If you're watching, it's in YouTube clip on watch.
I keep seeing it pop up like on just my news feeds that keep popping up on like Twitter and stuff.
Is it the jail, the interview where he's
I haven't seen the interview. I just keep
Okay.
seeing the articles, like
Oh.
pop up. I just haven't done any deep diving. I know it's a guy who's bald, and that's all I remember.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's the YouTube video where it's the guy who's done the crime and now he's being interviewed
Mhm.
about it, and he explains what happened the night, like he was having this conversation with the guy, shut up about it,
Mhm.
and so we decided, I'm just gonna kill this guy because he's too proud of it.
Yeah.
and describes how he feels and all that kind of stuff.
Honestly, I'm not mad about it.
Right.
Personally, I'm not mad about it. Don't be touching kids.
Okay.
Just don't be touching.
I gotta say, so I see those guys and I can't help but feel compassion for them. Right? And the compassion I feel is they are in danger every moment of their existence. And I just could not imagine living like that.
Karma sucks though.
Yeah, karma sucks.
Karma sucks.
I guess I also see this other thing too. I'll make this the last one, and I'll let you guys go. The last one is, so if you're a man who gets convicted of a crime, so like you're an older guy.
Mhm.
The inmates of the prison see the new inmate who's an older guy as the guy who was a child molester.
Yeah,
So you could be an older guy who didn't child molest, like did some other crime, but you come into the prison, and because you're older, you're automatically gonna be assumed to be the child molester,
yeah.
right? So there is like a case of mistaken identity. For those guys, what they have to do.
Those guys I'm sympathetic for.
Okay, yes,
Yeah.
and what they have to do is they have to walk everywhere with their paperwork.
Yeah.
On-
Yeah.
Because if they come across someone, like another inmate, the other inmate's gonna go, hey dog, why are you in here? And they have to show the paperwork to show that they did not molest a child.
That sucks, but
If they
still,
can't do that, they will get assaulted.
yikes. Yikes.
You find this interesting, horrible, uninteresting?
I'm just thinking about the whole like case of like the end, I'm thinking like, is that gonna happen? to
Oh
us?
my god, okay. Is she going somewhere?
She's going to court for the divorce, but she didn't say the reason why she was getting divorced. And she just went, I think, to the police station to make a call, with this guy.
Are you worried about that?
No,
Okay, so I was just gonna say, as far as the guy's concerned, if he, that's the charge and all that kind of stuff, they're not gonna let him go to general population first. They're gonna put him automatically over in the special needs yard, where he'll be protected,
Yeah.
so. Oh, but you didn't want that, did you want him to?
well, I'm like, bro, you need to learn, that was your like, power, that's the.
Yeah.
Well, so I'll say, it's still bad on the special needs yard.
Mhm.
One thing, I don't know if I wanna tell you this. Do you care if you have any sense of what's gonna happen with that? You sure?
Yeah.
Okay, cause,
He's piece of shit.
in the place that he's gonna go to,
Yeah.
he's still gonna have to fight off people.
Yeah.
But, in that yard that he's gonna go to, the special needs yard, right, so it's not gonna be the gangs that are out there. What there are, though, are a lot of men who are homosexual. Okay,
Mhm.
and they have to go there because they're gonna get confused in the main population.
Mhm.
But now they go over to the special needs yard where they're the majority. And they, over time, have formed a gang themselves
Yeah.
on that yard. They call themselves the gay boy gang.
Sure.
And what they will do is they will come together to sexually assault another inmate.
Mhm.
And so what your stepdad might do is fight those guys.
Good.
Yeah, he's really stupid, he doesn't know how to fight.
Okay.
He's not gonna survive
He's
at all.
really, like, really stupid, he was like a little kid.
Okay,
He's
sorry to hear that. Really, really sorry to hear that.
Right.
And it does seem to
I'm
be,
sorry for your cousins.
yeah.
That's who I'm really, really sorry.
It does seem to be a common thing, where, if someone does get molested, it often is like that stepfather.
Yeah, and it's weird because like, honestly, like since I was little, for some reason, I really don't know why, I don't feel comfortable being alone with my uncles. Like, I love them for sure, like, I have a special love for them. But it's like, like, don't leave me alone. And
It kind of stuff, yeah, frustration.
yeah,
Yeah,
for some reason, like, he was really, like, close to my cousin in physical way, which I was like, what? Like, kind of weird. And then one day I was laying down on the couch and then he went and then he was like, in my ass. And I was like, what the fuck is that? I was like,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Off limits.
And then I was like, okay, maybe like that's the way of him showing love to my cousins. Maybe he thinks I'm that way. But I turned around and I was like, haha. And then he realized that I'm just like, no, like don't touch me. And then since then he was just like, like I was like, yeah.
Hell, I barely even hug my own stepdad. Like,
Same.
I love my stepdad, I would do anything for him. I've hugged him maybe 2 times that I've known him, and he's been with my mom for about 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And-
I'm really not that physical anyway, but with my uncles, it's really like
really not physical.
Yeah, like really,
That you grew up with?
yeah.
Well,
I feel that.
and I do hear like, as far as like the statistics of people who do couldn't express, a lot of times it is the uncle.
Yeah,
Or the stepdad,
Right.
or the caregiver.
the caregiver. And when left alone with the child where they're trusted to be.
Right. Right.
Okay, on this,
On this positive note.
let's just make sure so we know that,
We're submitting that. Are you gonna make a thing?
yeah, so we think,
Okay.
so you guys can submit these. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I think I was supposed to be in class quizzes, those are kind of.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that last week, yeah.
Okay. And, I think, I have to pay attention to where we are to the schedule,
Mhm.
but, I think, did I double up
Yeah.
chapters this?
Chapters, yeah, and then they.
Okay,
I'm gonna be doing those.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
don't, I'm sorry about that.
So I may have to double up again, but I'm gonna do it depending on, where we are with the completion of this semester.
Sounds like a good deal.
Okay, all right, good job today, you guys. Thank you for your attention. I'm running home, I'm also gonna go home.
All right.
All right,
Yeah, see you guys later.
okay,
Bye.
good one. And actually, do I have any questions or anything?
No.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and end this recording. And we'll see you.